your seat. Thank you. And thank you to the choir for that song. That struck a lot of memories in me. But the most important of those memories, Mr. Chairman, was my first day here in Accra Academy. And so every time I hear this hymn, it brings back memories. And I appreciate that you selected that one. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, Bleoobi Dr. Bernard Donu, B84, the headmaster, Mr. Emmanuel Thiamawel, the Global Alumni President of Accra Academy Old Boys Association, the respected Mr. Kofi Amwewa, Bleoobi 79, 77, thanks for the correction, staff and faculty of the great Accra Academy, fellow alumni herein gathered, and senior Bleoobi gathered on the stage, allow me to acknowledge my mentor and big brother, Dr. Ishmael Dodu, who's here with us today. A big part of my development is thanks to his encouragement. Students, viewers and listeners joining us virtually, friends from the media here today, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I greet you all well and thank you for making time to join this August ceremony. Each year, the great Accra Academy, like many other institutions, holds its Founders Day to commemorate the founding of this noble academy and to discuss ways of sustaining the legacy that our founders left for us. For us, Bleoobi, and for the benefit of our guests and viewers online, a Bleoobi is a Ga word for a son or daughter. In other words, alumni or affiliate of the great Accra Academy. For us, Bleoobi, this is more like a family meeting where we talk about issues related to our school. First, let me express my sincere gratitude to the Board of Governors, the management of the school, and the leadership of the Old Boys Association for the privilege to deliver the 92nd Founders Day Memorial Lecture. Indeed, I know how much premium has been placed on my head with this noble call, given that a lot more qualified and great sons and daughters of this academy have come before me. So while I'm grateful to you for this honor, I would also like to assure you that I will do my best to do justice to the subject of discussion laid before us today. My hope is that at the end of this deliberation, I would have succeeded in instigating a deeper family conversation about our school and its future. I would also like to thank everyone gathered here, management, faculty, students, alumni, and guests, as well as all those joining us online for your presence once again. It tells me how much you value this great institution and are willing to be part of the discussion to move it forward. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, this morning I have the arduous task of leading a conversation on the theme, the vision of the founders, relevance after 90 years in the current technological world. Arduous because not only does this topic require an in-depth assessment of the relevance of the vision of the founders of the great Accra Academy, but also the requirement to situate that relevance in the context of today's world and perhaps go a step further to examine how much more relevant it will be in the future. Why? Because the future the founders envisaged is today. And our future is intricately tied to what is happening today. This is vast and maybe quite enormous for a 30 to 45 minute speech, but as I promised, I will do well to touch on the key points with the hope that as a family, we will continue this discussion even after today. To do this, I will seek to first give a historical context of our discussion, which I believe is important to give us a firm understanding of the vision of the founders. Then I will proceed to elaborate the essence of the vision in that era. I will then juxtapose that with the relevance of the vision today, and finally tie it all together with my thoughts of the implications of the founders' visions to the future of our school, our country, and the world in the context of technological advancements, of course, with a call to action. As some of us may know, this noble institution that has brought us here today was founded by 4 illustrious sons of the then British Accra, who had received quality secondary education from both the Wesleyan High School and the Missionary Grammar School systems, and proceeded to acquire higher education at the Fora Bay College in Sierra Leone. They were thus very well equipped with the requisite skills and knowledge to teach, and by some divine orchestration, had all given up on their initial aspirations to be lawyers, doctors, and agronomists in favor of teaching. It is worthy of note that the then vice principal of the Prince of Wales College, what we now call Achimota School, the renowned Dr. Kwedri Agri, played a very significant role in convincing these 4 young men to consider teaching as opposed to their various career aspirations. But Mr. Chairman, what makes this history important is the fact that the Gold Coast had very few secondary schools then, most of which were the preserve of the elite and very influential in society. In fact, in the only documented history book of the Accra Academy, the author, Simon Ontoyin, a proud Bleoobi himself, vividly described the 3 secondary schools in the British Accra colony, Achimota College, O'Reilly School, and Accra High School, as admitting pupils who had parents or guardians in higher places of influence. This left the wards and children of the average Gold Coaster in the colony with no chance to experience secondary education. But by virtue of the enterprising efforts of a man named Joseph Kitson Mills, many of these deprived children had already benefited from elementary education at the then only private elementary school at the time, the Accra Royal School. This left both a burden and a desire on the 4 young men, K.G. Konua, G.N. Alema, S.N. Aulete, and J.A. Ham Ado, to establish a private secondary school where boys from underprivileged homes could access secondary education. But Mr. Chairman, bear in mind that the educational system at the time did not make it easy to qualify as a government-assisted secondary school, given its many requirements. Thus, the founding of the Accra Academy was a sacrificial and pivotal endeavor to address the economic gaps that made secondary education for the poor impossible. Thus, the founders unanimously agreed that the establishment of the school was to bring quality education, and I emphasize quality education, to children of parents who could not afford the then boarding school system at the time. This was the vision of the founders of the Accra Academy, to bring quality education to the less privileged in society. Mr. Chairman, given the historical perspective, you will agree that first, the vision of the founders at the time was not only relevant in the sense of giving opportunity to the less privileged, but also important in the sense that they did not seek to just provide any kind of education. They emphasized on quality and, by extension, international standard secondary education to these children. The founders were well aware that graduates from the Great Accra Academy then would have to compete with their counterparts from the elite schools for limited opportunities. They were therefore driven by the desire to ensure that their students had the requisite knowledge and skills to be successful. You will also agree with me, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that there was a much more noble cause for the founding of the school: to bridge the economic gap and widen the educational brackets for children of the British Accra colony at the time. I dare say, Mr. Chairman, that the founders were cognizant of the fact as pertained then and envisaged that the socio-economic divide that existed then will continue even in the face of development. Were they right? I bet they were, because 90 years on, we still see great disparities in economic statuses around us, reflecting the classism of the society then in the Gold Coast era as it is today. They certainly foresaw that there will always be less privileged children and wanted to build an institution that recognized that fact and made provision for them. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this is what gave the impetus to the son of peasant parents who grew up in the doldrums of Alajo, a stark-deprived community in Accra, to dare to become the boys' prefect of the Great Accra Academy in 1999. I'm talking about the story of Bright Kwame Anani Crane, which is one that reflects the impact and importance of the vision of the founders in our time. Coming from a deprived background is no longer a sentence to life in poverty and mediocrity. Through the Great Accra Academy, Kwame and many others like him had access to quality education, which built his confidence, allowed him to dream, and gave him the guts to achieve more. Today, Kwame stands as a proud alumnus of the B99 fraternity, working as a leadership and behavior change consultant striding across more than 41 countries in Africa, Europe, Asia, and the Americas. This is impact. After 90 years, this is the same impetus I want for the son of a Kenyan expatriate father and Ghanaian industrious mother, my friend and nephew, Brian Mboje. Where's Brian? Brian is here. Come. This is Brian, the son of a Kenyan expatriate and a Ghanaian industrious mother. He's my friend and he's my nephew. It's the same impetus I want for him to have this quality secondary education after experiencing a checkered elementary education due to the movement of his parents. You may sit down. Thank you, Brian. May I use this platform to appeal to you, Mr. Fiamawel, to consider giving Brian a chance to experience greatness from this noble institution. I have no doubt that, like Kwame and the last Zimbabwean president, the late Robert Mugabe, who had his secondary education in Ghana, Brian right here will not only make Accra Academy proud in Ghana, but across the African continent. Who knows? This may well be the next Kenyan president now receiving his secondary education here in Ghana at the Great Accra Academy. Mr. Chairman, 90 years on, what the four Musketeers envisioned as the purpose for this noble institution remains relevant. Many young men come through this academy with the hope that the education they receive is unparalleled and will open doors for their future. And time and again, this has been echoed by the successes of many of us, giving credence to the first stanza of the school's ode, which says, "You have built nations of men, you will make great men of them. Generations of scholars salute you, black and gray acknowledge you. A lifetime of feeding in thoughts, in words, and deeds. Ese Kwamwederi, our great family." Today, the economic disparities that exist are further widened by the advancements in technology, which is the curveball in our discussion. Not only are there financial and social inequalities among many Ghanaians, but access to quality education, economic empowerment, and socioeconomic advancement is further limited by digital inclusion. The changing trends of work and life now requires that critical skills such as data analysis, coding, artificial intelligence, and data science are prioritized and included in our education to enable upcoming graduates from this noble institution compete in the institutions of higher learning and the job market. Just like the founders envisioned providing international standard education in the Gold Coast era to allow the children from the disadvantaged class compete favorably with their elite counterparts, it is now equally important to consider the evolutions of technology, which is driving every facet of life, as a critical component of the education received here in the Great Accra Academy. What does this mean to us then? And how shall we embark on this pursuit to continue to give relevance to the vision of our founders? I submit to you, Mr. Chairman, that the vision of the founders of this great institution will only remain relevant with the deliberate inclusion of technology-related subjects in the curriculum of the school. And I emphasize, deliberate inclusion. But first, let's examine what the theme refers to as the current technological world. Mr. Chairman, when you look all around you, you will realize that a lot has changed since you yourself were last a student here. Not too long ago, you needed thousands of man-hours to get this lecture across to other listeners, readers, and viewers through the media. Today, in fact, before, you could not have sent this message or made this message reach people beyond those of us in this room until after, at the very best, many hours of processing and rebroadcasting or delayed broadcasting. But today, what do we see? By dint of improved technology, this lecture is currently beaming across the globe on social media platforms, live and in real time. The world now has evolved so much that we have transitioned from the industrial age where machines were developed to aid work and life to a technological age of computers where highly sophisticated technology has changed the acquisition and application of knowledge to make life better. We have come to an era where cars, which were originally designed to be driven by people, can now drive themselves with so much precision and safety. We have reached a stage where knowledge is no longer the preserve of a few, but available on demand to anyone who desires. Not long ago, making, sharing, and keeping memories in the form of photographs and videos was a privilege and, in fact, an expensive venture. And we have come from the era of telegrams that took days to reach their destinations and long queues at the central post office to be able to place a telephone call or if you belong to the elite society then, having perhaps one household in a whole community with a telephone, to the era of mobile phones, what we call cell phones, with cameras, audio recording capabilities, and all kinds of sophistication that have simplified life and social interaction. We have come from a lot, and like a friend of mine will say, we are certainly going to go to a lot more. But by way of examples, I believe this is what the theme describes as the technological world. These are just examples. But Mr. Chairman, recall that I mentioned that the future that the founders envisioned is what we call today. Okay. And in the same vein, the future that we envision is what our great-great-grandchildren will call today when the time comes. And that future will be intricately tied to our today. Okay, I will explain what I mean. That is why I dare stretch a little beyond the confines of the definition of the current technological world to include the world tomorrow, which we can see afar today. That world where there will be the ability to live a whole life on cloud computing basis, what tech analysts now call the metaverse, right? Or simplify work and life with artificial intelligence, or develop faster, safer, and more efficient ways of doing things. The world where the acquisition and application of knowledge in fields such as medicine, agriculture, energy, arts, production, etc., will be further enhanced by the workings of computers, codes, and machine learning. That world, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, is what I want to include in the definition of the technological world. With this definition clearly stated, let us assess the relevance of our founders' vision. If bridging the socioeconomic divide and making available quality education was the bedrock of their vision then, it follows that the socioeconomic divide, either created or deepened by the advent of technology, must still be bridged. And quality education must still be made available on the back of that same technology to the underprivileged. If you agree with me, Mr. Chairman, to do this, we need four key considerations, which I call the charge to our four key stakeholders. So first, Mr. Chairman, there is a need to revisit our educational curriculum and ask the pertinent question, does our curriculum address the needs of our society today? This is a charge I give to the authorities of the educational system in Ghana. The Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service must champion a renaissance of our educational system. This is very important to ensure that as a country, we are taking into consideration global changing trends and positioning ourselves to be partakers of the times. And I dare say, my big brother, Dr. Dodu, can tell you, having traveled so many countries, the importance of technology. He can attest to that. In the absence of that, we run the risk of depending heavily on other nations for the skills and resources that will allow us to engage in global trade and interactions. Whether we like it or not, the sad truth is the advancement in technology will catch up with us. And if we are not positioned to properly engage, we will be at the losing end. This recognition and action are what has made India now the global tech hub. To date, more than 5 million tech-related jobs are outsourced to India alone. But India did not become the global tech hub overnight. It took a deliberate national strategy to develop capacity in technology to bring them this far. Similarly, as a country, we must begin to question the power of our secondary curriculum, given that it forms the foundation for human capital development for the nation. We must question what subjects we are teaching our students and check how relevant they are to current trends. We must make the bold decision to increase the uptake of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education among our secondary schools, and even go to the extent of making courses like coding a core subject to help our children develop the interest and ability to pursue technology at its highest point. It is at this point that I appeal to my very good friend and brother, Dr. Eric Nkansa, Director General of the Ghana Education Service, who I believe is following this conversation, to consider starting critical conversations within the government sector about educational reforms, something I think is long overdue. Next, Mr. Chairman, is my charge to the Board of Governors and Management of the Great Accra Academy to consider including technology-related courses into the school's curriculum and extracurriculum activities, and prioritize these initiatives. Initiatives like robotics, initiatives like getting the kids to do coding, are very important, and they can be part of the extracurricular activities. Mr. Chairman, while I acknowledge that the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service have key roles to play in setting the educational curricula, I also know that government-assisted secondary schools under the umbrella of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, CHAS, which you yourself, our headmaster, is an active member of, have some room to innovate with the direction and focus of the school. We have many examples to guide us. The deliberate pursuit of science by schools like Wesley Girls, Presec, or Infansipim are but a few examples to cite. That painstaking, long, and persistent pursuit of an educational philosophy is often rooted in two things: desire and support. I'll explain. I know that the schools that I have cited have the backing of their respective churches or mother institutions, and hence the availability of funds to execute such innovations. Nonetheless, I call on the board and management of our great alma mater to look deep within and redefine the reputation of the school based on innovative approaches in line with current technological advancements. Let us begin from there before we interrogate the question of funding, which I will address in my next charge. In the wisdom of the founders, our great academy was positioned to be the best liberal arts education institution from the onset because of the context of education at the time. For their vision to remain relevant, the board of governors and management of the school must examine the needs of society today and deliberately, Mr. Chairman, incorporate the solutions in the development of co-curricular activities. In fact, they can consider, in the spirit of the founders' vision, creating an avenue to provide education virtually to children who don't go to school or can't afford school fees. This way, we will not only be building nations of men, but indeed making great men of them because of the solutions they provide to society. Moving on, permit me, Mr. Chairman, to say that the alumni and affiliate community, and I choose these expressions carefully, of the Accra Academy have a big role to play in making the vision of the founders of our great institution continuously relevant. I therefore will position this charge squarely at the feet of the Accra Academy Old Boys Association under the leadership of the able and most respected Kofi Amwewa. You just heard me acknowledging that some of the top secondary schools in Ghana who have succeeded in carving a niche for themselves have done so through self-driven innovations backed by their parent institutions. Unfortunately, you and I know that the Great Accra Academy was founded with the sacrifice of the first four gentlemen, following which many other people supported their efforts. There is a popular African proverb that says, "It takes a village to raise a child." That village, in the case of Accra Academy, is the alumni and the affiliate community. I continuously include the affiliate community because there are individuals who, though not old students of Accra Academy, appreciate the impact of the school in national development and remain proud of us. A good example is a friend of mine who was supposed to be here but had medical issues and is dealing with that, Stephen Anti, who I personally and unilaterally conferred affiliate Bleoobi or status on him since we became acquainted about some 12 years ago. He and folks like him have to be encouraged to continue to love the school and support its development. But even more importantly, I suggest that the Global Alumni Executive develop strategies, which I know Mr. Kofi Amwewa is leading, to bring all alumni on board and coordinate alumni activities in ways that will enable the pooling of resources for the development of the school. It is only then that we will have the economic muscles to support the advancement of the vision of the founders. The alumni body also has the potential to marshal alumni with deep understanding and influence in technology-related endeavors to provide some direction for the development of co-curricular activities in the tech space. Some notable alumni like Bleoobi, Dr. Dodu, Eric Osiakwan, Bleoobi Noah Adabla, and Charles Jaka have charted important careers in data science and technology. These and many like them are resources that the alumni leadership must target to bring on board deliberately to support the development agenda of the school. AOBA should also consider leveraging the skills, knowledge, and experiences of seasoned alumni and affiliate members to develop mentorship programs that will identify, groom, and lead younger Bleoobi through identified careers. In fact, we have very good examples of those. My good friend Yao Tasunti sitting here has been a beneficiary of that kind of mentorship, and that's what I am encouraging the alumni to do. Thanks to the leadership of Bleoobi Kofi Amoewa, this initiative has commenced. But let me use this August platform to appeal to colleague Bleoobi across the face of this earth. Please come and support this initiative. Remember, our great alma mater has no parent institution. We, you and I, make up the KG Conyers, the GN Alemes, the SN Auletes, and the JA Hamados today. It is our sacrifice that will make this institution great in the face of technological advancement. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, here now is my favorite charge, which I give to the students here. Students, are you here? Accra. Accra. Here. You for STEM. Doing, maybe not, but I was passionate about it and I committed to it. It doesn't matter what subjects you are studying. You can take advantage of the changes in technology to teach yourselves or be part of the curious minds for STEM. This way, you will appreciate careers in technology and be able to contribute to developing technological solutions that will make life even better. From playing computer games to coding, you have an opportunity to bridge the digital divide by choosing careers in technology. The future, they say, is data. There is far so much you can do with technology. Why don't you look around you and identify things you can use technology to improve? I challenge you to come up with creative ideas that will provide solutions to some of our society's nagging problems. You will be amazed that your ideas will be given wings to fly, and that is how you too can break through to your fortunes. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I know I have said a lot about careers in the tech space. And I'm sure you are wondering, shall we then stop producing the top economists, lawyers, poets, and musicians? No, I am not advocating for abandoning the liberal arts. Rather, I am asking for the incorporation of technology in these endeavors to make the results achieved from these areas even more potent. Because in our current and what I foresee as the world to come, there is hardly any area unaffected by the advancement in technology. I am therefore asking for the deliberate pursuit of knowledge in technology to support whatever endeavors we choose. By all means, let the economists and lawyers train as such, but let them learn at the minimum how they can apply technological tools like ChatGPT, Google Bard, and many other such tools to enhance their work and improve the outcomes. At the same time, let us encourage our young, curious minds to take up technology with a goal to become solution providers like Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, who have generated tech-based solutions used globally. You, seated here, too, can develop a solution that can be used globally. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it was the hope of the founders of Accra Academy to see the school continue to churn out well-meaning young men who will contribute to the development of their nations and humanity by bringing quality education to the less privileged. As I wrap up my speech, I ask, shall we continue to pursue this vision or shall we abandon? For me, the answer lies in the motto of the school, which says, Esse quam videre, translated to mean better to be than to seem to be. So by all means, let us pursue this vision with vigor, hoping that we will come to the expected end. I hope I have been able to ignite a passion in you to consider expanding the conversation about the importance of technology to underscore the vision of the founders of the great Accra Academy. I hope we will continue the debate on educational reforms needed to meet the needs of our time and beyond. I hope you agree with me and Edward Teller, the Hungarian-American theoretical physicist who is also known as the father of the hydrogen bomb, that the science of today is the technology of tomorrow. By virtue of that, Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the founder's vision remains relevant today and will be relevant tomorrow. Thank you.